My name is Shaaz Moosa. I am the CEO of Supahot Geysers and MS Group Holdings. The early life or what started my business career was um, I I did my matric at Maritzburg Boys College out in Pietermaritzburg. Um, Coming out of Maritzburg College, I wanted to become a professional. I wanted to study and do medicine, and at that time, I think I was motivated by family because family was in business. So I was in this turmoil between business and being a professional. And studying for 4 years to do either a BCom or something in accounts or something in the business profession was a bit too daunting for me because I looked at it and I said, at 17 to study another 4 years, I felt it was like a bit of a waste of time. So I remember sitting out at my dad's supermarket. He had a supermarket at that time, and there was this guy who used to come with his fancy cars. And every time he used to change his cars, and I asked him the question, like, what do you do? So he says, I'm an insurance broker. I said, okay, how long did you have to study? And he said, not long, go for a few courses and you can start. I said, okay, can I do it now? He says, well, why not? And he linked me up to a company called Sanlam. And I spoke to my dad and I said, listen, I'd like to give this a shot. And my dad said, go for it. And if ever you fail, this is the family business you can fall back on. And so I started my journey in the insurance business. And I must say that through that journey, I learned a hell of a lot of one, communicating with people, two, money and finances, three, the way the systems and money systems worked. And so I started that journey. And as working as an agent for Sanlam, that was short-lived because in 7 months, I said, this is not working for me. I've got a boss, etc. And so the regulations were much easier to become an independent insurance broker. And so I applied for my license, and I then had multiple contracts at the age of 19 uh, with Sanlam, Momentum, Liberty, and I think it was Discovery at that time that just broke off and became Discovery. And through that and through my family's relationships in the business fratern, I was able to meet certain clients, and they gave me the support. And very quickly, I realized that it's not a long-term business for growth for me of what I wanted to do, and so I started dabbling in businesses and properties. And in 2006, my dad tragically passed away on a Saturday morning in a factory that he was building, a brick factory, with his brother in partnership. And on that Saturday morning, my entire world changed. And it was quite a shock to the system because at 21 years old, your dad is gone, and now you have to be this leader in your family to take care of everyone. And in that same year, I started looking for other opportunities whilst in the insurance business, and I got into the Scooters brand, Scooters Pizza. And I met with a very nice gentleman. He was 71 years old at that time. His name was Luigi Gonzaga, who stayed out at Westville. And he started this with his son, and growing this franchise. And in growing this franchise, I said to him, listen, I'd like to open up halal stores. And he was looking for somebody who could assist and handle these type of stores. And so very quickly, we opened up multiple stores over 3 years. And I then realized that this is very hard work. So, because the hours were long, and in that, the effort to reward wasn't there in terms of monetary. So there's a lot of effort, and the financial reward wasn't that great because there was a kind of cap of what you would make in certain stores. And I found very, very quickly then it was better for me to open up these stores and sell them off. And so I did just over half a dozen of stores that we opened and sold off. And whilst doing that, I was dabbling in some properties and buying these properties at cheap, I mean, one-bedroom apartments at 60 grand at that time. And the avenue to credit was quite easy. Those were the days where you used to get a credit card in your post box, with 80, 100,000, depends on turnover. There wasn't not much of regulations in terms of credit. And so I started buying on these bonds. And after some time, I started realizing that the values of properties were going up, and I sold them off and started clearing off these bonds. So I had a bit of an asset base. But in that businesses of the scooters business, it taught me a lot of discipline. It taught me a lot of, it was the basics of manufacturing. And whether you're manufacturing a pizza with different ingredients, and if you're manufacturing geysers in today's time, it's just change of the ingredient, and so the principles. So in that journey, I sold off these stores, and an opportunity came about to manufacture water pipes. And I bought over a business and grew that business. And it was quite nice because we grew it, bought multiple of 10, and ran it for 4 years and sold it. Whilst doing that, I realized unintentionally that I've become a serial businessman. And in being a serial businessman, very close dear friend of mine who's just passed invited me to go on and do a business course with FNB, Islamic Banking at that time, together with the Wits University. We did a mini MBA, and we used to travel monthly and spend a weekend out at the university, and we completed it over a year. And I think the growth was that because I was in business, it was easier than what I wanted to do in 2017 in study first and then do business. So it became much more fun because we now know out of practical what they're talking about. And now it was just polishing, those rough edges. So I always enhanced myself. And phenomenally, I had good teams around me. I've had good support structures. My mum, and my family that was around me gave me great support, and the friends that I had. I had phenomenal friends, just a handful of them, that was always willing to assist. Largest businesses in the country, these guys run, and they were just very helpful. And it's not about finance, it's just about hearing you, guiding you, motivating you, and learning from people and what they've done over the years. And I think that has become the success of who I am today. I think also one of the important things is that it was the drive. Coming out of having lost your dad and being in financial distress as a family, there was this drive that you had to get it done. So there was no fall back, and if there was no way out, you had to push your way through. And I think that was the drive and the motivation. And I strongly believe that if you do these right things, the Almighty opens up the doors for you. Because, an example is people say to you, when I get a lot of money, I'll give out charity. Or when I get some money, I'll assist this person. And I realized that that's not the way the Almighty works. The Almighty works to say, with what you have, can you do it? And if you assist the community, your people, family, etc., then He will give you more. And that is advice that I give to every young person today, is that don't wait to have to give. Give from what you got, and the Almighty is going to give you more. Because bottom line is, we make the effort. Almighty chooses people with responsibility to take care of their families, take care of the community, take care of outsiders. And it depends what sort of circles that you have, whether you want a smaller circle or a bigger circle. And if you're doing these right things, people say there's no set recipe for success. I disagree with them. I totally disagree with them. Your recipes are, you give and you just do right. And if you're doing right with the right moral compass, Almighty will certainly make sure that He gives you that responsibility. And I don't want more because I want more. I want more because we must be able to do more. And a clear example is last week I lost a very dear friend, and we gave, he gave. And people talk today, and the legacy that he's left is about what he's done, not just in the business for turn, because he could have had this business and kept it, but he didn't. And the Almighty gave him more because he did, and he had these huge responsibilities of other people. So it's not about being selfish. And the youngsters today first look and say, what can I buy to drive the nice car? It's not that. You drive what you can afford, and you drive. There's a time and place for everything. The challenges were always more or less the same, in that you want to achieve something, but you don't know how. And the rule that I would advise or give advice to anybody, or any youngster, or anybody who wants to start or do anything for that matter, is just do 5% more. Because that 5% more is what allows you to be better than the rest. You know, I use an analogy of boiling water, and it's a 5% rule. So boiling water, and now that I'm in the geyser business, I can be more technical about it. Boiling water boils at 100 degrees. At 100 degrees water, what that can do is limitless. You can create power. You can create and run steam engines. You can create, and from that power you can create lots of things, electricity, steam trains, etc. So motion can be created by 100 degrees boiling water. At 95 degrees, what can you do? Have a cup of tea. And that's all. That 5% is what creates and unlocks the multiple of other things that you can do. And you just got to persevere. So you would have blockages. I mean, credit facilities, I was too young, banks would not look at me. Turnovers were too small, banks would not look at me. And you're then forced to be more creative and say to yourself, what can I do? And the answer to that is, now you start and you're forced to look out of the box. So you say, okay, the banks are not assisting me. And so you go to people who do have access to finance, or do have bigger businesses. And then you start talking about partnerships. And in being in partnerships, it's just truth and it's being honest that allows one partnership to flourish and flourish. And I've got multiple partners. I've got great partners, close friends of mine who are partners, and who end up like brothers. And it's only because of the trustworthiness, it's because of your track record that you did, that allows you to now grow. So the challenges that I faced was my age, the challenges were my finances itself, and the challenges were, we all have some sort of family challenges that we have. And it's either you're going to overcome them, or you're going to allow them to bring you down. And the one thing I couldn't accept for myself is excuses. I could not accept an excuse by blaming somebody or other third force for what is happening to me. I've made mistakes. I certainly have. But you got to take responsibility. You got to take it on the chin. You lose money. You lose friends. You lose. It's life. But do not make the excuses. You cannot make excuses and say, I'm not able to do this because of that. And that's one thing I couldn't accept. We had to find a solution. So over the time, in 2018, I was in the textile business and in the plastic business. I sold off the plastic business. There was a good opportunity on the sale, and I made a decision at that time because it was a lucrative transaction, and I sold off the plastic business. In that time, I got into a business that was in distress in the textile industry, and we used to supply the major chains, the Mr. Price Group. And whilst in that business, an opportunity came about, and people always ask me, how do these things come about? And I say, it's the Almighty. And if you in a certain area or a certain positive area, Almighty is going to send it. So the way the geyser business came about, and look, Frankie Geysers was a Swiss company, and they had a presence in South Africa in the water division, as well as their sinks and taps. And they decided at that time that they wanted to exit because the political climate wasn't exactly where they wanted. There was the elections in 2019, and they made a decision that they wanted to sell one of the divisions and test the market. And so they decided to sell their property. So in selling their property, I actually went to look at the property for sale, not the business. And what had then happened was um, there were there was a company that was going to take them over called Safa, the Dawn Africa Group. And this was a massive plumbing and one of the biggest, if not the biggest, plumbing distributors at the time in the country. And these guys were doing acquisitions, but their manufacturing businesses were not performing. And so the banks or their lenders, funders didn't give them the approval and said, sort out y'all's act, because they then appointed a CFO. And a very great guy, wonderful man by the name of Edwin Hewitt. And he was appointed as the CFO, as the restructuring officer. And he wanted to take this business. And when the funding didn't come through, my offer that I put in for the building was not accepted. And I got a call from the MD, Mr. Frank McIntyre, and he says, "Do you not want to buy the business?" And I was like, "Okay, let's try and see." And so I put them an offer, and it was an offer of what I could afford at the time. It was quite low and too low for them, but again, it came from the Almighty. The Almighty made sure that the deal transpired, and we took over that business. In that time, I had sold off, closed off, or sold off the portions of the textile business, because I felt that the textile business was a trading entity. It wasn't really an asset-based business, because your machinery and equipment was only an amount, and you had more stock and trade in what you were doing. So you were working on a future order book as per seasons. And again, through the experiences and life experiences, you learn and pick up things, and you can apply it to any business. So it's not that you have to be specific in a certain industry. If you apply your mind from a common sense point and surround yourself with wonderful teams and employees that become part of your business, you can achieve anything. And so we started this journey in 2018. And in 2018, we rebranded Frankie as Supahot Geysers. And Supahot Geysers has become the third manufacturer in the country. And we are only 3 manufacturers at this point in time. There used to be 5, and due to the climate of economy, they couldn't make it. And our success was that we kept our expenses low. We kept our expenses low, and due to the relationships, because we've certainly had challenges with our bigger competitors, they had the bigger nationals tied up. And for us to enter that, it was quite difficult. And so we said, let's go back to basics. And we ran our numbers on the smaller volumes, and we said, let's go for it. And so we bit the bullet. It was quite technical, and again, the Almighty had sent a very technical guy to us by the name of Emil Claessens, who's joined us, who had experience in the geyser business. And at that time, he was not in the geyser business. He exited the geyser business for 10 years. But you see, we just ended up on my table when we started searching for people, and he was the right guy. And so in calling him, he got on board, and we managed to keep and deal with all the technical aspects, because at the end of the day, the geyser is an appliance. And being an appliance is actually a very dangerous one, because it's a high-pressured water vessel, and that can be literally a missile sitting on your wall if not plumbed correctly or manufactured correctly. So we got into this business, into the geyser manufacturing. We started, and we had the challenge, because as we were about ready to start producing and sell, we fell into COVID. And in 2020, we had this big factory, big capex that has been spent, and we can't sell, and we haven't sold any geysers. So that was March. And so we had to dive in and make a decision, what do we do? And so the decision was made, let us rather online sort out all our internal processes, sort out all our, or put into place our SOPs, put into place our manufacturing, and basically do all our admin in that time. And so when we were ready and came out of lockdown, and due to the permits that allowed us, and we qualified as manufacturing and part of the first businesses that could have opened, we got into it and we started manufacturing. And we started small. We started absolutely small. And we started off selling to our independents, growing our brand, growing our relationships. And from there, the nationals started approaching us to say, because we started making noise in the independent space, and we understood that the power of the business was not just in the nationals. Because if you take all the independent hardware stores in the country combined, are more than the actual nationals. And so our biggest growth was from our independence. And that success allowed us to then make waves into the nationals and into the insurance industry itself, because we were competitive in terms of our pricing. Our service was on par, if not better than our competitors, and we were approachable in that you're now dealing with not a big corporate or international company, you're dealing with a man one-on-one. And so we have a very flat vertical management structure, and everybody is approachable. So we don't have the structures that you can't call the CEO directly, etc. You can deal with anybody at any time, and so everyone gets involved. And compliments to my team. I'm surrounded by a phenomenal team. Emil Claessens, Roland Govender, Lucas Swart, our FM Monique, who's now joined us. It used to be Mariska, who unfortunately had to leave, and Seppo, Dineo, Tabo. This is the team that's stood with us from the beginning, and it's our team. So I'm not a one-man band. I'm not the man that's sitting here. That's the man behind everything. And it's really through my team, my family, my mum, the structures, the support that I get. So sitting here is not, I shouldn't be the one here. We should be getting everybody and putting them into this interview. I think the style of leadership is inclusion. I don't necessarily all the time, or most of the time, deal on an authoritative way. I prefer having buy-in from our key staff and understanding and getting a buy-in from them of what do we think we need to do. Yes, the goals are there. I've set up the goals. I've set up our plan and our mission and what we're wanting to achieve. And by including them of how do we do that, not just this is what we're going to do. And I think that has led to the success of our business. I think allowing people to be part of that business. And look, you do get certain people who just take themselves as an employee and don't see the greater vision, but they fall off the wayside. And the guys who are really wanting to be part of this business and make it a success pulls it through. So the leadership skills or the leadership style that I prefer working with is inclusion and communication rather than just an authoritative one and saying this is what we're going to do. I don't know how people can be successful if they don't start early. I mean, in our religion, we've been taught by our Prophet that if you start early, there's what we call barakah in Arabic, and in English, barakah means there's no real explanation, but it's the unseen blessings that come about. And I think if you look at the top 100 companies in the world and the CEOs and founders of all of them have this quality of starting early. When I say starting early, I'm talking about 4 a.m., the 4 a.m. rule, and one, start work early, and that allows you to work hard. Two, be honest and truthful, no matter how difficult it's going to be. Number three, very importantly, my 5% rule. And that 5% rule is to do 5% more. That's all you need to do, 5% more. And the third is give back. You have to give back into your communities. You have to give back to your family, whether it's in time or money, financial. You have to include people. And by doing that, success is an automatic. We must understand that success is not just measured on finances, because with the finances is just a means of you dealing, of plugging the problems or plugging the holes where problems lie. But there's no point in having lots of money if you're not a person that one can sit and talk to. So it's not just assisting in finances. I get calls from younger people. I get calls, and it reminds me of a gentleman that stands at the priority at OR Tambo. And he stopped me once and he says, I always see you on the phone and I see you every week on the flight. What do you do? And so I shared my number because I was getting late. And I said, give me a call at 7:30. And he called me at 7:30 p.m. and we had an hour chat about what he wants to do. So you have got to humble yourself. And if you humble yourself, then I might need him tomorrow. He might be the CEO of AXA. It's the wheel that goes around. That would be my advice. The best thing I love to do is stay at home. I think with the busy schedule and busy timelines, I find joy in my family. I find joy in my family. I find joy in spending time with them. My mum was very ill and diagnosed with cancer last year in October, and it's contrast to my dad. My dad died instantly, and it was a shocker. And my mum's around, and I want to give her the time. So spending time with them for me grounds me. It allows me to understand that what are we actually working for, and there's no point in being on the outside and being so busy if you're not going to instill this in your family. And instilling it in your family is by spending time with them. And so I enjoy spending time with my family. I've got a wonderful spouse who's very supportive of me, and I've actually grown quite a bit because of her support. I've had my fair share of challenges. I've had my fair share of personal challenges. I was divorced. And I found that my spouse that I have has just made such a wonderful contribution to my life. The support of my mum, the blessings and prayers of my mum. I try as much as possible to just be there for her. And I think by being that, the Almighty opens up your doors in making you successful. The motto I live by is do good, speak well, and listen to people. I didn't necessarily want to do this, and then the reason why I decided to do it is because if somebody can learn from it, and if anything that I learned in life is, it's so short. I lost my father immediately. I lost a close friend immediately. I almost lost another friend who was diagnosed with cancer, and we went through a strong journey together over a year and a half ago. And I might not be here tomorrow. And so if my son sees this video, and if his friends see this video, and it's an inspiration to any one of them to allow them to grow, because the life today is so different to what the life we had or that you had, in that everything is now so fake and it's so superficial, and you get these Instagram posts and these TikTok posts, and the guys are sitting in cars that don't even belong to them, and they aspire to be that, and that's not the reality of life. The reality of life is what we're living through and who we're living through. And so that's the reason I'm doing this. And I was, for the last odd years, I wasn't in the front, and the reason why I'm being in the front is that a friend of mine said to me, a religious leader said to me, he said, we need to be out more in the front. I mean, I look very highly at Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, Gift of the Givers, and he's not there for the show and tell, but we have to do it to allow the population to understand what we are, who we are, what do we do. It's not just getting a contract and making some money and buying a Louis Vuitton bag, you know. It's far more than that. And so I think we need to have these types of media platforms so that people can understand really the businesses. Because I see guys on television, and when I see them on news or short clips, it's all about, you know, the glitz and the glamour and the brom, and it's really not that. I mean, I'm wearing probably a 1,000 rand jacket. I certainly can afford a 10,000 rand jacket, but why? You know, and that's what I want people to see. And that's the reason why I did this, is that I came out of my shell to say, if we're not going to let people see it, they're not going to know what we are about. They're not going to know the substance, because they see you driving a nice car and they think that you just fall under the category of everybody else. And I guarantee you that all the other people who are probably driving nice cars, etc., have the same and similar story that I have. But they're not seeing that because they're not allowing people, they're not going onto this platform to explain to them. And so that's the reason why I decided to do this.